I'm Professor Alison McConnell. I'm a Professor of Exercise Science and I'm currently based within the Faculty of Health and Social Sciences at Bournemouth University. And what I bring to the faculty is expertise in exercise science and integrative human physiology, which underpins the allied health professions that are also present within the faculty. So my role is research, consultancy, knowledge exchange with local companies and of course teaching. What I went into my first job with was an ambition to create, I suppose, my own area of research, something that I could be known for and that would, I suppose, get me noticed. And I became interested in the phenomenon of breathlessness, understanding why people get out of breath, and also thinking, again, because I was interested in sport and thinking about training and breathlessness, and training makes you less breathless, and how do we understand that? And I had a particular interest in older people and their breathlessness, and through reading around the academic literature, I discovered that one of the few things that determines the strength of our breathing muscles is age. If you look at the strength of breathing muscles in younger people, it can show a twofold difference in perfectly healthy young people. And we don't really understand the reasons for that. Some of the reasons are mechanical, some of them are physiological. But the only thing that does predict your breathing muscle strength is your age, and it goes down as you get older. And so I wondered whether older people were more breathless than younger people because they had weaker breathing muscles, because we know that if your limbs, for example, are weak and you try to pick something up, that the weaker they are, the heavier the object will feel. And so the same principles apply to breathing. The same intensity of breathing will generate greater intensities of breathlessness the weaker your breathing muscles are. So I sat down with a technician, and I've always been quite a practical sort of person. I spent quite a lot of time with my dad. He was very into cars, and I would help him fix cars and that kind of thing. So I was quite mechanically minded, as my mum would say. And we created what was the first prototype power breathe. Now, to cut a long story short, we found that if you train the breathing muscles of older people, they do become less breathless. But then the surprising finding was I set for an undergraduate student project, a project to look at the effect of this training on young people. And to my surprise, we found that if you train the breathing muscles of young people, that they improve their exercise performance. And the reason that we were surprised about that is that everything we know about how exercise is limited in human beings tells us that breathing is not the limiting factor. If you could breathe more, you couldn't run faster, you couldn't run further. So it was quite a challenging finding to explain physiologically, because it went against everything that we understand about limitation to human performance.
Now that sounds like it's very straightforward.
It wasn't straightforward.
There you go.
I've simplified the story, and I guess the story gets more complicated the kind of further on in the story we get as well.
Were there nights when you were up all night working?
Oh yeah, I mean we had to put a lot into the company, personally and financially, and it was a costly endeavour from a personal and financial perspective. But what has made it all worthwhile is the fact that in 2006 the Power Breathe was approved for prescription on the NHS. And as a little fledgling company, we would get telephone calls and letters from particularly older people telling us that the product had changed their lives, and those kinds of stories, that's what makes it all worthwhile. The first experiments were done in the early 1990s. And the Power Breathe was patented in the early 90s, and we commercialised, so we launched the product in 1996, and we had our little company running at the University of Birmingham for 4 years, and at that point we ran into some difficulties in terms of our expertise and cash flow, as many little companies do. And we took the decision that we would actually sell the assets of the company and the university that had licensed the intellectual property, the patent, if you like, of the Power Breathe to our company, then license it to another company. So effectively we sold everything in 2000, and I went back into academia as a professor at Brunel University, which is where I was before I came to Bournemouth. But I maintained my contact with the new owners of the PowerBreathe brand, and I worked with them to develop the brand, develop the research that underpinned the brand, to help with their marketing, to help them develop new products, and also to help them to present the evidence that was necessary to get the PowerBreathe approved for prescription. Academic work tends to move quite slowly anyway. It takes a long time to do the science that underpins these kinds of innovations. But also you have to keep repeating the science, and other people have to repeat the science in order for it to be convincing. So there is that kind of natural pace of things taking a certain amount of time. But I think also when you're dealing with something which is medical, there is also quite a burden of time and evidence that's required, and a scepticism that you have to overcome, particularly if you're not coming to the market with a drug, for example, and you haven't got a multi-billion-pound marketing budget behind you. So if you've got something that actually is very simple, very cheap, nobody can actually make a large amount of money out of it because it's so simple and cheap. It doesn't involve drugs, it's just exercise. People tend to think that's just too good to be true.
Well, and